All right, thanks for joining me, Charles Moscowitz. Welcome aboard. And off we go to another amazing live stream here at YouTube and subscribing stations. I normally do, and I do the program Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 1, and this is a special edition. We are joined by Marie Fisher, who is with Project 21 Black Leadership Network. Marie, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So Marie, you're in Maryland, you're an activist, a Republican. You had a very good candidate for Congress in Baltimore. I don't think she won, but how are things looking on the ground, so to speak, in Maryland?
I wish I could say good.
Okay.
I mean, we have a majority Democrat legislature, and they are pushing through bills that they're basically mirroring what you're seeing in Congress. They're pushing through bills where they had like one that's up this week is that the police will not be able to cooperate with federal authorities for like ICE detainers and immigration. They're trying to limit them that way. They also had another bill where dentists could give the COVID vaccine.
Now, how do they justify that, particularly to minority neighborhoods, people who are maybe not in the wealthier, predominantly white neighborhoods, who are dealing with influxes of crime?
I don't think they're really looking at that. They are sort of pandering to the progressive movement. They are not listening to their true constituents, especially in more minority neighborhoods. I won't say more minority, but less influential neighborhoods.
Yes.
And in Maryland, the counties that are the most influential are Baltimore, PG County, and Montgomery County. Montgomery County is one of the more wealthier counties in the country. PG County is also, people don't think so, but it is one of the more wealthier counties in the country because PG County has more Black millionaires per capita than any other capital in this country.
Right.
Any other county in this country. So therefore, it is also, pandering to a more wealthier, I don't want to say clientele, but more wealthier constituent.
Sure. And there are also people that often have either government jobs on the federal level, or they have kind of contracts with the government, some sort of interaction with the public sector. And this is what has made Maryland and Virginia much more blue, to use those terms. Now, I think
Maryland's always been blue, but Maryland's been more of for years, I think Maryland was more blue dog than was actually progressive, but lately it's becoming more progressive, and you see Virginia is turning blue. And I hate to say it, West Virginia might be in trouble too, because a lot of people that are working for the government, there's a MARC train that goes right out to West Virginia.
And it was the government that was the one area that expanded, certainly during the Obama years. And you had a huge growth in, income and wealth, mainly from public sector people. Now, how can Republicans, who tend to represent middle class, lower middle class, working people, blue collar people, and I would also frankly say, in the real sense, minorities, because the interests are there. How can we make a better outreach in terms of bringing people up and into politics and getting them voting and getting them active?
We can't be afraid. We have to go out to those communities. And that's the biggest issue. You see a lot of Republicans who will not go out to Black communities. They will not go out to minority communities. Some of them are afraid something. I had one lady tell me, "Oh, they never vote for us." I'm like, "Yeah, they'll never vote for you."
Yeah, because you're not asking them to vote. You have to go out and ask people to vote for you.
Yeah,
Anybody who's run for office, that's how you win. You go out, you knock on the door, and you say, "I'm asking for your vote." And then
not even asking for the vote, but listen.
That's right.
There was a lady in DC, I don't know if she's still on the Board of Education, but she was the only elected Republican in all of DC. And what did she do? She went out and she just said, "I want to hear you. Tell me." And she said so many people said no one had ever knocked on their door before, because it was always Democrat, and the Democrats always just assume, "Oh, we're going to get that vote." So she went out, and I think she knocked on a total of, about 7,000 to 9,000 doors.
Incredible. Well, that's how Tip O'Neill did it back in the day. I mean, he you know, he wrote a book about it where he referred to all politics as local. He went
It
door to
is.
door in his district, which happens to be where I live in Boston. And personally, it took him a year. He knocked on just about every door in that district. He didn't have a lot of money. He was opposed by the Kennedy machine. They didn't like him.
Yeah.
And yet he won because he simply did eyeball to eyeball, listening to people, and it changed him. You learn. I mean, you become more aware of, you leave some of the abstract things and you become aware of what people actually care about on the street. And I'm trying to urge, I think this year, and I've done it, so I'm not speaking as somebody who just is saying this, people to run for local offices, city council, town council, school board, local state rep and senator. You might find that these offices are held by people who have been there for decades and who have never had an opposition even, and who have never been challenged. And you can do it with very little money, and you can win. And if you're a housewife, if you're retired, if you're a teenager, you're an empty nester, you have some extra time, it's almost a civic duty. It's exhilarating to go out and do this. And you can, you can be amazed that that it can't, not only can you win, but even if you don't win, the media will cover you, and you're going to get a few issues out in the public for people to think about. And that's how you make a contribution to this country.
And it takes a lot of, people don't know that it takes a lot of work, and you can't wait to the last minute to file your candidacy. You have to start before, or even if you're not going to file yet, get out in the community, be active. Don't wait to the last minute and say, hey, I want to, we had a young lady in PG County. She won for the, let me see, she won for Bowie. She's on the city council for Bowie. The only Republican, the only elected Republican in PG County. And how did she do it? She went door knocking. She didn't come out saying, I'm a Republican. She just came out with her values.
Exactly. You don't even have to say you're a Republican on a local race. I mean, that
right,
only,
because it was a nonpartisan.
Yeah. I mean, even mayor, you don't have to be, Republican only, because I know that carries a certain level of baggage. But, the other thing that people need to be aware of is that there is all this free media that you can develop, even like Facebook, you can put together a page, Twitter, begin to build up a following and communicate with people regularly, put together a newsletter, your local cable station. You can get a television program. Look, I did this. I was, I half hour a week, I went on television in my local community. And the little secret about that is that they kept rerunning and rerunning because they're looking for content. That thing ran practically every day. And
wow.
After 3 months, people were stopping me on the street. You become recognized. So, and these things are all, free, and they're all available. I mean, if you're going to run for local office, there's all these tools. I mean, I'm thinking of publishing a short book about this, so that, kind of a guide that people can get with it in terms of getting going. And you have a few issues. I mean, we saw from this last election, states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and Georgia, they superseded their state legislatures and started making election laws without the constitutional support, because the Constitution says, Article 2, Section 3, that state legislators are supposed to make election laws. Well, if you win one of those races, and it's not that hard to do, for local state rep, state senator, you can then begin to reintroduce ideas that are constitutional that your state legislature can do. And, in a way, we can reassert our rights as citizens under the Constitution and exercise those rights in ways that we didn't even know we could.
And you're talking about free press. I want to get in. A lot of people don't realize, do a press release and send it to the small newspaper, your local newspaper, the little mom and pop newspaper, because they're dying for content. And whatever press release you put out, they'll publish it.
Oh, you bet. And you'll get interviewed, and you'll get, and just have one or two issues. Don't try to overdo it, but bring up one or two key issues and just hammer away at that, and continue to promote that and push that. And it will get covered, and you will, your opponent will probably take the bait and debate you. And, especially if you start to show some action. And again, you can do it with a couple of coffees. You don't need a lot of money to do this.
Mhm.
You know, in a local race, it's small enough that you can actually go around and meet people, so you don't have to worry about big, money and special interests coming in. You know, usually, I mean,
True.
that might happen too. I don't know.
I know.
So, so
Depending
Maria,
upon where you are.
I have to ask you this question, and I mean,
Mhm.
I'll just put it to you plainly. Um, you're a Black Jewish conservative in a liberal state. How does that roll for you?
It's been interesting. It's been, well, the interesting part is the number of conservatives I meet, because I'm very much out there being conservative. And the number of people, because I used to work for a college, and the number of people who came up to me and saying, "Oh, I like your politics." And
But they
it
say
was,
it like sub rosa, right?
yeah, they would. Like,
I
I had one
have the
guy come
same
up to
thing.
me, and one guy came up to me and goes, "I'm going to talk to you in code." And I was like, "Huh?"
That's
And
right.
then
Don't
after a
tell
while,
anybody,
yeah,
it's
it
not a
was.
vote. Yeah.
But it was like the number of people who are like that, it was shocking. And it's
Oh,
like, you know
yeah.
what? And that's what people don't realize. It's not a matter of being Republican or Democrat. It's a matter of, what are your values? What are your, if you have conservative values, which we've come to realize the majority of Americans do have that. Majority of Americans are not
Exactly.
progressive, they're conservative. And
Yeah.
once we all can get together and realize, okay, we're not going to agree on every conservative value. And we can't let people dictate. Like, I know on the left, you've got people saying you've got to fit, you got to fit in line. You also have some on the right saying we've got to meet every conservative value. And
Yeah.
it turns off people. I knew a lady, she ran for office, and she said the only reason she wasn't a Democrat, the only reason she was still a Democrat is because of choice. She was pro-choice.
That's right.
And I'm like, this is sad, because this lady would have been great for the Republican side. She won her office, and she was very conservative all the way around. But because you've got certain people who tell people, if you don't fit every little niche, we don't want you. We can't do that.
That's
Because
right. I mean, there's such people can be purists. They have to have
Mhm.
everything, and that's just not ultimately how politics works, especially representative politics. You're going to have to work with people and form coalitions and disagree
Mhm.
and come to compromise. That's just the American system. I mean, we can't, because a government has to govern over everybody, and it's not supposed to move too quickly one way or the other. So yeah, I mean, you have to be somewhat of a pragmatist. Not that you compromise your values for a minute, but in a sense, you have to work with people.
Right, you wouldn't compromise your personal values, but overall, we're still trying to push one general value. And when you look at what's happening nowadays, especially since Biden took office, we really need to get our act together, because this is really scary with everything going on, what's being pushed. It just seems relentless. I've had friends who are telling me, they feel like giving up. They
Now,
feel
tell me
hopeless.
how do you think that so far the Biden administration is affecting the Black community, the minority community generally?
Well, people are already seeing it. First of all, you look at the gas prices. And
That's right.
some people are saying, oh, well, that was going to happen anyway. No, it's like, by him, saying he's not doing the pipeline, that caused speculation to go up, caused prices to go up, and that's affecting people's pocketbooks.
That's
Right
right.
now it's going to be at the pump. Eventually that price is going to hit the major manufacturers. And that means our prices are going to go up. So immediately everybody is starting to see, you know, people are starting to, and I'm seeing everywhere people are regretting. They are
Yeah, the
regretting.
prices go up, the employment goes down.
Mhm.
It seems like Biden is trying to do just policies out of strict vengeance and spite, in that he's canceling President Trump's executive order that insists that onerous regulations be gotten rid of.
Mhm.
That every new regulation you have to sunset two bad regulations, and things like that, which have helped business. They've helped people start to develop and expand their businesses without, by getting over these rules that actually only help the big guys.
Right. People don't realize a lot of regulations out there, they're not hurting the big guys, because the big guys are going to have the money, the ways, the means to get around those regulations, shortcut it. They're going
Exactly.
to hire someone to do it, outsource it, put it in another country. Most regulations hurt the small guy, the entrepreneur, the one who's trying to start a business. that's who it's going to hurt. And that's what we need to grow right now. Until our small businesses grow, no matter how much money you put in these relief package or stimulus packages, that does not grow an economy. Small businesses are the machine of an economy.
And
And
they're being wiped out by the COVID.
well, I want to say wiped out by COVID, wiped out by our government, because you look at places like Florida and what was it? I believe North Dakota with Kristi Noem, where they didn't do shutdowns. Their small businesses are still going. So it wasn't wiped out by COVID, it was wiped out as a government reaction to COVID.
That's right. And that there's ways to protect yourself from a virus without having the government come in with these very, very extreme measures. And that doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon either.
I told someone, I said, a small mom and pop business is going to care more about, making sure they're not getting infected with COVID and their people not, they're going to be cleaning their place faster. They're going to be taking more precautions than I think the big guys. Because I told someone, I said, these big box retailers, you're just another consumer. They'll easily replace somebody else. If you work for them, if you get sick, that's just another employee they'll replace with somebody else. A mom and pop business, they can't afford to train people as fast, get people up to speed. So to be honest, I felt more safe going into a small business with this pandemic than a big business.
For sure, because the business is accountable. I mean, they have to, they're going to end up being hit if they don't fly right in those cases. So you Marie are really talking about issues that actually can make a difference for average people, because it's the pocketbook issues, the price of hamburger. This is stuff that affects people literally. And I think it's the kind of stuff that people are going to look at in the coming year as we move toward the election, which is really only a few months away. And hopefully we take back the House. Now, is Maryland fielding any good candidates for 2022?
So far, I haven't heard anything yet. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, I'm pretty sure Kim will probably run again.
Good, because she's a great candidate.
Yeah, she was.
I think that, by the way, Trump did better amongst minority communities.
He did. They said he got
did
the most minority votes than any other Republican president. I think it said over 50 years, probably since Eisenhower.
Yeah. So, I mean, that has to be continually capitalized on. You make the good point, the Republican Party, although I wouldn't hold my breath for them, but, right, don't wait for it. But they need to go into neighborhoods and start to knock on doors and meet people, and the individuals need to do it. I hope you run for the House.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to yet, but
okay.
But I mean, even so, if I was going to run for something, like I said, I'm going to start small. I ran for Board of Education for one time. If I was ever going to run for something, I'd run for either state legislature. I would start small. I'm not going to jump up with something huge, but I want to prove myself.
That's right. And in fact, the state legislature actually is where the party, where it is. That's where the power is. I mean, they need to wake up and learn how to exercise that power. And to my way of thinking, this last election should have been a wake-up call in terms of the actual power the state legislature does have, and they don't know it, and they need to exercise it.
I forgot who said this. It was a guy out of Indianapolis who said this. He says, pay attention to your local legislatures or your local offices, because they're the ones who can reach into your pocketbook fastest.
Oh yeah, you bet. All right. So Marie, let my listeners and viewers know a little bit about your organization, Project 21, where they can reach you and all of that.
Okay, Project 21 is part of the national leadership. It's a national leadership network, and it is meant to is aimed towards Black conservatives who have an entrepreneurial spirit, who are looking to better their lives. They offer, Project 21 has a wonderful called Blueprint for Black America, and they show ways to improve the Black community in Black America without all these incredible budget busting, expensive ideas, just simple ideas that, in my opinion, it would be nice to see most legislatures to adopt. I believe Trump adopted some of them, like bits and pieces, but still, it was a start, especially more community relations between police and the community, which is, people don't realize that's very important. That's a big deal.
You need to capitalize on what Trump actually started with, an initiative to have more police reform, an initiative, by the way, that was shot down by the Pelosi House, mainly because they didn't want Trump to have any credit for it.
No, of course not.
And we should look at that, and we should look at the First Step Act, and the permanent funding for legacy Black colleges, the enterprise zones, the pro-business. I mean, before the pandemic, there was a huge surge in employment. And I hope that
There's also a huge surge in entrepreneurship. And to me, I think that's important because, Black communities need to create wealth. Jobs come and go. If you are creating a business and you end up, and your business grows, you hand that business down to your children and then to your grandchildren, that's how the wealth is created.
You bet.
Jobs go.
No, you bet. I mean, lower regulations, helping pro-business attitudes, which is, I think, the biggest Achilles heel of all for the Democrats. Not to mention school choice and other programs that actually help people, that actually get people, more independent, and and that have been proven to be successful. So, Marie, listen, I really want to thank you for what you're doing. I hope that you are successful and more successful in Maryland, and let's stay in touch.
Okay, definitely. I look forward to it.
All right. Take care. Have a good